now that we've found all of the reference materials that we think we might need for now, we can always revisit this at any point in our sketches, or our ideas are going to evolve. And it's important to be aware of that you don't have to stay on your idea. Your ideas are going to keep expanding, and it's a beautiful thing when we go through that process. But it's also very important to make decisions along the way and start to prioritize what our designs are going to look like. So now that we've started collecting a lot of different images of the exteriors of the house, interiors, and you got a lot of inspiration of what goes inside this house, and living space for this character, now we can start to sketch it, and really roughly sketch it. You just want to get down your ideas, and sometimes the faster you do those things, and the quicker your ideas come out, the more you can start to figure out what you want to prioritize within that. And we don't have to do perfect examples of these things. We're just getting more and more ideas down, and that could be, you get different types of flower pots that you like, and where you're going to put them, and what's the character of them. Do they have texture to it? We start developing caricatures of everything that's inside that house and how it was built. We give it life in this stage, and this is just through doing thumbnails. And then once we get our thumbnails ready, we're ready to move on to the next stage. All right, as you can see, it's a bit hard to tell, but I have these images now of my reference pages open up on a separate page, on a separate computer, or on my other monitor. And now I can actually just really freely toggle between them and just see what I have available to me. And it's really easy for me to keep these things open and reference while I decide to draw. So, with that in mind, let's get sketching. All right, so a basic setup here. Sometimes I like to put a texture down when I just decide to start sketching. And it just kind of gets me into the world a little bit more. I mean, really, I'd like to do this stuff all on paper. For the sake of getting through this, and sometimes for the sake of production, it's just easier to go digital. And in this case, this is just how I'm drawing the example to you guys, and you can choose whatever you want to do. But let's get some of these ideas down. So for starters, open up a file, and let's give it a name. So now I'm going to find a nice home for this, and we'll call this folder Exterior House Designs. All right, let's get going. So I've already decided that I am going to use some of the cob homes. Actually, I find them the most interesting. They're pretty cool looking. So let's get started. This is really going to be very, very rough, to be honest. Sometimes what you might do is actually bring the images right onto your Photoshop screen. You can do that if you like to. I sometimes do, I sometimes don't. But whatever floats your boat works for you. I have 2 pages open here so I can see whatever it is I feel like I need to see. And sometimes I just want to block these things in, so I'll go with, let's say, a 35% opacity on my brush. I've created a new layer. We can get started just blocking in some shapes. So a lot of times I think, with these kind of homes, they really emulate nature. That's one thing I've noticed in the studies that we find. You don't want to spend too much time over sketching this stuff. So just generally, let's get some shapes down. maybe there's some pillars here. Whatever you think needs to happen. There'll be a door. Maybe some windows. Bit of trim. Who knows what happens in this place? You're just trying to get some really general ideas down. I mean, you might have some bushes out front. Maybe one of them has like a little tree of some sort. And you really start defining your space as to what it is you want to put down. What you can do is you can start to define some of the textures here. Perfect. There you have your very first design of a home. It's idea one. Let's have some more ideas. Always save. Always save your stuff. Now I really like the mushroom idea. Let's start building with different shapes with that. This could be a stage actually where you go back, especially if you're doing organic stuff. You may go back and start studying how they emulate other things in nature, such as mushrooms, and how there's different different ways that mushrooms may behave, or trees, or things of that nature. How they move in nature, how they, speak amongst one another. You get different shapes as things reach towards the sun or reach for water, or just how they react to their natural environment. You never know. You never know what you're going to get with this stuff. You're just building based on what you think works, and some ideas work, sometimes they don't. You just don't want to get stuck on an idea for too long, because sometimes it really doesn't work, and it's okay. It's okay to step backwards a couple times. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe there's a deck up here. Cool. It's got some nice gnarl to it. Maybe another deck on the other side. Of course, a little bit of some garden. Maybe you'll have some sort of tree here. I mean, again, you're not really looking to detail too much. You're just laying some shapes down, to be honest. You would have an umbrella maybe somewhere. Who knows? You know, wherever you feel like, you start making some decisions. There's shutters. Again, obviously, you're not really needing to draw things with any remote perfection. You are just trying to lay down some ideas so that when you revisit them later, you can start to see where what you want to keep, what you want to evolve and grow from in here. This relatively is the speed at which I expect thumbnails to be done. When you get to the later stages of actually doing the more cleaned up work of this stuff, we will start getting more into how these things are detailed. And I will get into that shortly. You're just, you come up with some ideas. Maybe there's the trim is a little different. Maybe there's lights in certain places. You just want to be able to get your ideas down quickly. And you know what it is. You know what you're putting down, but it's just, whatever triggers your imagination about it, your memory of these things. And then you can go in later and you can develop them further. So there you have a couple designs so far. This will be thumb 2. And I'll do one more just for the sake of showing you how it rounds out a page. Again, I think you should have upwards of 15 to 20 drawings of this. It doesn't matter how many pages you put together. I like having a lot of the things on the same page, generally because I like to match and see how they compare with one another. Then you'll end up breaking these down a lot further. We can see what we'll do with it. So I really like some pretty organic shapes. I can see that a lot of these designs have interesting shapes to them. This one might be completely different. There was some tree houses from before that I had seen, and this one may be one where it's really its own thing. Maybe it's maybe this one, instead of being a cob home, is actually built out of stone. And so you just spend some time blocking what's there. You can go back and erase everything that you want to erase. Resize it as you feel is necessary. it's really up to you what you want this to act like. It's interesting the different ideas that you can come up with. Cool. And whatever does the job tells you enough of the story that you need to be communicating really literally only with yourself at this point. Gets you into the project. It gets you into the world a little bit more. This could be kind of like a tiny home. Maybe a bit of like a hobbit door. I really like referencing those things, and we can kind of use those things as inspiration for what we want to accomplish within our own drawings. I want this to be stone. Maybe there's a little bit of some moss buildup around here. Maybe a bit of a wood outline here. Same with these. These are all wood. Let's give it a knob. A little bit more moss buildup. And this is just very literally suggestive to that. Perhaps even there's a bit of a yard somewhere here, so let's build this up with a little bit of some fencing. White fence, white picket fence. And generally what I would have done prior to this is, or in the middle of all this actually, would have been studying different types of fencing once I came up with this idea. And then that really helps to later decide what kind of fencing it is I want to actually put in there. This stage, all I know is that I want a fence, so it might be very well that I go back in and I go and study iron case fencing or wood, different types of wood or stone fencing. What may work better, because I might think of this idea as I got a stone here, stone house, and I think stone would look better than it, but it doesn't actually make the house pop, and maybe I need something that contrasts it, and that may work a lot better. So let's go with that. Maybe put some other accents on corners here. Couple of trees maybe. Perfect. Maybe there's some sort of bush around, who knows. These are all things you can take out later when we're deciding to finalize our design work. And well, there you have it really. Now we've decided on a couple of different designs. I'd like to see more than this. I usually, spend a couple days doing this kind of stuff. So I'll have, you know, 8 to 10 pages of designs such as this. But this is what we're going to end with. All right, so let's make sure that we save this file. Then we can work on it at a later time. And that is the end of that chapter of doing the exterior designs. And so now we're going to be getting into some of the interior stuff, which means some of the props and furniture, walls, everything that you think is important for your character. So let's get right into that. All right, so this is all the stuff that I've collected for my interior design stuff. Again, there should be much, much more than this, but this is just, for the sake of example, this is what's there. Now, looking at it really briefly, some of the things that I, for myself, assume that I want to have in this room is I really like the stone. I really like the stone stuff. I want to have a nice fireplace, a place that's cozy for our main character to interact in, and so I really like some of the big windows in some of these as well. I love all the stone. I love all the wooden features, and there's a lot of character, a lot of character, even just the shapes of some of these things. Now, I can't really get into the interiors until I've decided what I've done with the exteriors, because you may want to keep some of those elements in mind as to how small the space is and what the walls are made of. So that being said, I keep this on one of my monitors. And now I'm going to work into the interior, and I've decided that that last home that I built, the one with the big tree on it, is something that I'm going to investigate further. And so now we're going to get started with designing the interiors of your home.